Hey, my name is Calvin,
And my name is Kevin.
and this is,
Ricky, also known as Malandro.
and we are here on Martial Art Mindset to talk about what Ricky does for a living, what he has been doing for a long time in his martial arts, which is.
Capoeira.
So I wanted to start with that, Mr. Malandro.
Yes.
All right, so I know that's your Capoeira name. And in Capoeira, it's often big to receive a name. So can you tell us about that, how you received it, what it means to receive a name, and how you got your name?
Yes, in Capoeira, to receive your name is kind of like a milestone in your career, so to speak. And with the school that I'm a part of, Phyllis Ubimba, we actually have an actual ceremony where the student will receive a nickname. But it's called a nome de guerra, which means war name, because we want people to, with that martial art mindset, to know that this is a martial art that you receive a name and you should be so proud of it that you would be willing to go to war and say your name while going to war.
That's big. So
Yeah.
what does it mean?
Malandro means good looking. No, but it literally means like street smart, streetwise, someone who's like very tricky, but also someone who can move in different avenues and different environments, whether it be in the streets or whether it be more in like the high level, communities. I'll just leave it at that.
That sounds like being adaptable.
Yes,
It's really
very much.
huge. Yeah, and that's something that we naturally have because we grew up in a military family. And
Moving from place to place all the time, you have to learn how to adapt. So
with adapting, so Hapkido was the first martial art that we ever learned, and then
Awesome.
Taekwondo, and then some other stuff there. But then we were introduced to Capoeira while we were in high school,
Nice.
and we found somebody to train us. So we have a love and passion, which is why we're excited to hear your story about it. So just let's rewind back. Let's go
Okay.
back to little Ricky.
Yeah.
little young Ricky, before any martial arts, and what got you started in martial arts,
Awesome.
and then how you got into your whole journey.
Okay, we're taking it back. Okay, so growing up in Detroit, Michigan, I wanted to be like He-Man, just like really strong, everything. But once I saw Bruce Lee in, I believe it was the Chinese Connection, when he was using his nunchucks and hitting everybody, and the guys were holding their head and squeezing the ketchup packets, and the blood was coming out, and I was like, maybe I could be like him, Also, now Return of the Dragon, the Last Dragon, as well. That kind of like got me interested in doing martial arts. My mom eventually took me to, I guess it was either Taekwondo or a karate class led by this guy named the Black Dragon. He was a big, heavy-set guy, and he was, giving orders and everything, and I was very intimidated and didn't feel like I could handle it. But I was very young as well. Like fast forward to my high school years, then my mom knew a guy who did Kempo karate while I was also training for track. So he would pick me up from school after track practice, and then I would go train Kempo karate. So Kempo karate is like my first actual martial art. But I was really into watching martial arts films. I would buy the VHS or get the VHS tapes from Blockbuster Video, and was the compilation of different scenes from different martial arts while they were doing it was a martial art documentary, but they would always show different scenes from different movies and television shows. So that was my exposure to like Sammo Hung, Cynthia Rothrock, Jackie Chan, Jet Li, Gordon Liu, Keith Cook, more modern, Michael Jai White. And I wanted to just do martial arts. And I would buy like the Black Belt magazines and read as much as I could on different martial arts. Because also like knowing Bruce Lee, he kind of like absorbed what was useful for him from different martial arts. I'm laughing now because it's kind of silly, but I would also look at the back of the Black Belt magazines and check off different equipment that I wanted to buy, but I didn't have enough money for anything. So I would just imagine myself in my room like using punching bags. And,
How old were you when that?
Oh man, I was like 13, 14. Yeah.
That age.
That was like, man, that was around the time of like Power Rangers, Mighty Morphin Power Rangers, Ninja Turtles in 1990. a lot of I think like quality martial art televisions and movies that kind of came out that just kept that fire going. But eventually, when I bought one of the black belt magazines, at the back of it, it had a advertisement for Capoeira. Now, my first exposure to Capoeira was the movie Only the Strong, like a lot of people, right? And then the video game Tekken 3. So of course
that's going to come up.
yeah, of course.
Eddie
Gordo. So, and it was cool with Only the Strong. I felt like that was a cool thing because of like the music component along with the martial art. I felt was like really cool. And I think a lot of the good martial art or even action movies or just iconic movies, in my opinion, have a good soundtrack. Like with Rocky, you have, Eye of the Tiger, Fly Now.
Bruce Lee's Enter the Dragon.
Exactly.
Soundtrack.
And they use that in Rush Hour. The
Yeah.
Intro, and
So that was kind of my exposure to Capoeira, was Only the Strong. And then as the memories are flowing back, it just like wow, I can't believe I was doing that. So for example, in the Black Belt magazine, there was a Capoeira camp in California. Say that 10 times fast. So my dad was living in Los Angeles, California at the time, and here I am, 15 years old, thinking that, oh, maybe I can go visit my dad and then try this Capoeira class. Mind you, I've never seen a Capoeira class, never done it, but I'm like curious enough to like make a secret phone call from my mom's basement, right? So once I called, So once I called, they were like, "Oh, where are you calling from?" I said, "Detroit." They were like, "Oh, we have someone who teaches there. We'll send you information also about the camp." So I got one of my friends to give me a ride to the class at the YMCA, and that's when I took like my first actual capoeira class, and I was so excited. I like went to the front row, and because imitated the Jenga and everything, all the movements. Like, okay, cool. And they're like, "You have to go to the back of the line because this is for the people who like are the advanced." So it's like, oh, okay, guys, sorry. I'm just happy to be here, and it just never left. I stuck with it until today. So that was like my first exposure to capoeira. And the reason why I was smiling is because I had the cassette tape soundtrack of Only the Strong. So eventually, when I had a car, I would pop that cassette tape in and be like, "Anana way, anana way, na na na," and do that back and forth from class, and it was good times.
that sounds fun right there. Oh, that is amazing. Listen.
So from there, how did your studies in capoeira evolve after that?
And how did you use it? So how did you, before you started capoeira class and after you started, where did you see changes in your life?
Oh, wow. Okay. Well, when I first started capoeira, I saw just literally changes in my body just because it's it can be very physically demanding depending on how you train it. And I didn't see any limits in my imagination at that time. So becoming more flexible, seeing how my body moved kind of like naturally with like my back and being able to do back bends. And I was just so into the art form that I literally taught myself certain movements. Like I taught myself a lot of the acrobatics, a lot of the hand spins and other things that capoeira is kind of like known for. I taught that to myself, flipping in the ghetto on a dirty mattress. That was like me in the backyard. I'd take my mattress out to the backyard, and my grandmother's exercise trampoline. Mom was like, "Don't put that mattress on the grass outside." But that's like how I would learn like the movements that I saw like in the film, like with Only the Strong and even with Eddie Gordo. There were all these acrobatic movements, and I was like, "Whoa, I want to try that." And it was never a thing in my head where like I can't do that. It was just like I'm gonna learn how to do that, regardless of what happens of the process. So I was very determined, but with me, capoeira was always fun. It was always fun, even if there was a challenge and not able to be strong enough to do something or couldn't hold a handstand. It was just always fun of like the fun of the challenge of learning something new. So that was always good.
Yeah. I'm glad you said that real quick, though. But
question I have, because as we were learning before, you see the movements first. And
Yeah.
you're like, I want to do that. That's cool, and that's like what resonates with us because just the music, the sound, everything.
Mm-hmm.
But then when we started learning more about the history of capoeira and a whole how deep it really is.
Yeah.
When did you start being exposed to the history of it, and if you can give a quick rundown
Mm-hmm.
for, like, let's just say I'm somebody who doesn't know anything about capoeira.
Yeah. I first got exposed to like more of the history by reading. There was a book called The Little Capoeira Book, and I think it was one of the first, to my knowledge, one of the first like capoeira books in English. And then just reading about the history of the different mestres and the Africans that were enslaved and how they used it as a martial art, or they disguised it as a dance. So that kind of made sense of why it was so rhythmic and why music was so prevalent in the art form, as opposed to, what other martial arts that I was exposed to at the time. But now, with even more research and it becoming part of my life, I would say that capoeira is an African-rooted art form that comes from Brazil. Its parents are African, but it was conceived in Africa, but born and raised in Brazil. And again, with more research, I wouldn't say that it's a fight disguised as a dance, because there were already other things of African descent, other African manifestations, and even congregating in large numbers. All of that was already outlawed before capoeira. So I say that capoeira is a African-rooted art form, and because of its African roots, that's why the fight is very rhythmic with the attack and defense movements. And again, like we said earlier with the lesson, is that you learn in capoeira, you learn how to fight by playing, similar to the tigers, cubs when they're very young. They're wrestling with each other, but those same movements is how they grab and hold their prey when they're hunting. And also that capoeira represents different things for different people. For me, it's liberation and personal expression, and how can I reach my fullest potential in all aspects. And growing up in a single parent household, physical confrontation was not supported in any way, only because that was kind of like my mom being like, very like calm lady. Can
you explain why you're such a calm?
I was like, oh.
Very, very calm and non-violent. But on the flip side, because I feel like with me being a Pisces, I'm all about like balance, and I feel like there's a certain time and place for everything, and being able to stand up for yourself is very important, So as a kid, it was something that I feel I wanted to learn but didn't yet, how to stand up. It was always like, if you get into trouble, go get an adult or someone, to help you, or someone bigger. And also with capoeira, that helped me to deal with certain situations and use my wits, rather than every single person I'm going to kick them in the face, because then your legs get tired.
At some point.
At some point.
Yeah, there's two things I wanted to share from that. One is the aspect of playing, like to jogo. So jogo, all right. So when we were doing the lesson earlier,
Yes.
It reminded me of in ninjutsu, Hatsumi Sensei. One thing he says to his students when they're about to do a technique is play.
Okay.
And what I'm realizing is like, with our kids, how do they learn best? They learn through playing. Because when you're playing, you're not thinking about reaching a goal, trying to do anything. You're just playing, like you said, like the Cubs. And then also the goal that you're trying to reach, our instructor in Alabama told us this is an art of liberation. So just hearing that, it's like, okay, I see that seems to be what eventually people will go to.
Yeah. I mean, it can, like I said, it can represent many different things for different people, and those things that it represent can change over time, or other things can get added or taken away. So for some people who may not be immediately connected to the African diaspora, it's a sense of culture and community. Other people who kind of are already used to that, kind of even like the nicknaming, some cultures already kind of have that element, so it's something familiar to them.
Like for us, twin. People see, hey, ninja.
Exactly. And also, some people grow up in a certain environment where you have to like keep your head on a swivel, where you have to like be ready to get out of a situation or just being more mindful of a situation. Some people are a little bit more sheltered, so that aspect of trickery or pretending to be hurt so that you can expose the defenses of the other person and take advantage of that isn't something so common, or like would look dishonorable. But again, it's all fair in like life, you know. Nothing is like to the extreme on one side or the other.
So where would you place yourself as one of those people?
I definitely would like in the middle, because capoeira represents like being able to have the resources to defend myself, also giving me the tools to empower other people, facing my challenges, often patience, because you know as well as anyone, like teaching youth, it takes a lot of patience, you know, but the reward is very fulfilling, because you're almost like being a farmer, like you're planting these seeds of knowledge, not just on movement and technique, but you're literally you're reprogramming someone's brain to like push themselves, to even give them new sensations. Like there's basic kicks that we do in capoeira, and I teach the kids starting off at like 5 years old. And to kick the leg just in this direction is developing a certain motor skill, because they're so used to this direction, but to now go in this direction, I'm giving them the sensation in their body. So I'm also like teaching them body awareness as well. And I've taught thousands of youth at different locations, because I've been teaching capoeira for like 23 years now, particularly in schools. So there was one school, the East Bay School for Boys, that I worked at for like over 10 years, and the 6th graders would come in, and I'm teaching them also how to work with each other, teaching them confidence to, it's okay that you're not good at something, and you can't be good at everything, but you're never going to be good at anything if you're not good at something, you know. So you got to really have to be okay with like looking silly, and everyone supports everyone, you know.
Yeah, there's a saying, if we can just pause there for a
yes.
second, that our first capoeira instructor, he said, if you're gonna make a mistake, make it boldly. Like, just do it, let it happen.
Yeah. So it's the work I've been doing, is particularly with youth, is like very fulfilling, you know. So in the middle is where I would place myself.
No, I think that's amazing, because as we were talking before we started recording this, you were telling me about your school back in San Francisco, and how like you didn't know how the transfer to Atlanta would be. You teaching here, and he's saying he still has a school running out there in out there in the Bay Area.
Yeah.
So could you just explain what went through your mental, emotional as you were transferring from the Bay over here, and how it settled?
Yeah, a lot went through my head. It took me a couple years to kind of like process, because one, I'm here in Atlanta for 2 reasons. One, I'm working with my cousin, and we have our own academy now, so that I can really utilize my work with the youth, and also my work in capoeira overall. And then the other is the movie industry, because now the movie industry also is like a huge community here, where it's not just located in Los Angeles or New York. And there's an opportunity for me to present capoeira to the masses in a way that hasn't been tapped in just yet, where I envision it. There's been a lot of work done with capoeira, but that's, you know, why I started to even think, okay, maybe this could be something, because I was involved in the Black Panther film as one of the Border Tribe members, and then also again in Infinity War. So that being involved in those 2 films, like, oh, okay, well, maybe I could continue to do this. So sitting with it for really like 2 years and thinking like, okay, there's this huge opportunity and potential for me to do a really good work out of respect for like the ancestry of the art form, and, you know, for myself. But that means I kind of have to all intents and purposes, like leave this relationship that I've built for, and in this community for 22 years. You know, I moved away from my family in Detroit at 19 for capoeira, and just lived in California training, even through like 2 torn Achilles, continuing to train as well. They weren't at the same time.
So you need those.
Yeah, at the same time. But yeah, it was like, okay, I know I'm going to do this great thing, but that means that I need to step away from this fulfilling relationship that I've built and community. So that was a very, very hard decision, because not knowing how people are going to take it, not knowing if the students were going to want to continue, because to a certain degree there is some of the responsibility on the students to keep it going, but also stay in contact with me and provide material for them and guidance, as they don't have this resource readily available as it once was, you know. So I hope for the best and prepared for the worst. And fortunately, the school is still going. We just recently celebrated 10 years. 10 years.
Wait, hold on. There's the wrong one.
There's a clap somewhere.
I accidentally hit the.
Yes, celebrating this year was 10 years of Phyllis Ubimba Bay Area, and now July 5th will be 1 year of me being here with Phyllis Ubimba Atlanta.
Yeah. Claps are going on. Okay, so I want to pivot.
Yeah.
So pretty much talk about a couple more things, but I want to pivot into what we were talking about before we started recording. So
okay,
there's this. You already know. There's this way that people see capoeira. Most people that haven't been exposed to enough information, or haven't actually gone out to a class to see how it is or try it out themselves. Right. They just, I think, unfortunately, because of how media is, how that works, when people see something portrayed as one thing and just say get in front of millions of people's faces, like certain movies or videos online or whatever, they're like, oh, that's really what it is, and it doesn't work. How's it possible? Like, we went through enough training to find out, like, oh, that's very useful. Oh, the skill of being able to be deceiving is very useful. The skill of being able to be balanced and being able to catch yourself. But like, what are some other aspects? And then you just go on whatever you feel like. Yeah. That those people who are, let's just say, not believers of capoeira. What are those main things that you would share to make them those believers?
Yeah.
Skeptics.
Skeptics. Well, I think the skeptics, as we were putting it, they're not so much at fault because they can only base their information of what's been put out there. And to a certain degree, not all schools really have the resources or even tap into that self-defense aspect, even though the self-defense aspect is the essence of capoeira, because the Africans would use the primitive movements of capoeira to escape captivity into the forest, and then when they would send the bush captains after them, then they would fight using elbows, knees, kicks, and things like that to, stay free. And then later on with time, then more of the artistic elements were being added into the art form to what we now know as capoeira. But capoeira in the beginning just started off as a fight to get away of a situation that you didn't want to be in. So now there's skeptics or just people who don't know, even in capoeira, okay? Because the majority of the training in capoeira generally is for the roda. For example, I'm just going to talk about the lineage of my capoeira. So capoeira, once there was the abolition of slavery in Brazil, like 1888, right? Capoeira became illegal in 1890. So through persecution, discrimination, it was almost extinct. So this one person, Master Bimba, was able to take capoeira, create a methodology of teaching, and be allowed to teach through government supervision. And without him opening the door for everyone else, capoeira definitely would have died out. Now, besides the persecution, he also felt that capoeira was losing its martial aspect and becoming too folkloric, right? So while he was developing what became known as Capoeira Regional, he created a methodology of teaching, He also went into the ring, which was the Vale Tudo, and challenged anyone to prove the efficiency of his capoeira, and he was undefeated. His nickname was Três Pancadas, which means 3 hits, because nobody could last more than that. And this is all documented. I'm not like making this up. It's all documented in newspapers and things like that. But also being successful in the ring, he also stated that capoeira is not made for the ring. It's made for self-defense, preservation, and things like that. It's a martial art that's good for the mind and the body. So because of that lineage that I'm a part of, we have trainings that we do where it's self-defense training using the resources of capoeira, but those movements are not to be used in the roda when you're playing, because we see the other person as your partner, not as our opponent, because you're going to treat the other person very differently, you know. So with Capoeira Regional, the resources are there and the training is there for people to tap into that aspect. Now, people can play capoeira a long time and not necessarily go into that aspect, because again, if you're talking about art, it's expression, so not everyone wants to or chooses to or even may get exposed to that way of expressing themselves. With other martial arts like karate, kung fu, and Kali, it's very direct. People are easier to understand what they're seeing of attack and defense. But with capoeira and the game aspect and being so rhythmic and connecting to the music, it's a little bit harder for people to understand that, oh, you kick, but you kick not to hurt the other person, or you can make contact, but then the dodging, it kind of looks like a dance and very playful, but once you train it, then you understand like the subtleties. You can place your foot behind the ankle of another person while they're kicking, and for you, you know that that was your foot sweep without you having to sweep the other person's leg. But unless someone sees something that's like fully followed through all the time, then they tend to, it doesn't register in their brain as much, the combative aspect of capoeira. Yeah,
that's pretty incredible. And what you're saying too, just picking off things you're saying, which is one reason why we started this podcast.
Yeah.
Mind, body, spirit. So just hearing you talk about the mind there, and then earlier you were talking about, I asked you a question, you said one of the first things it helped me with was to get into my body, use my body.
Yes.
So it's like, oh wow, that's how it shows how important the body is. And then the mind, like just knowing those small things, like playing tricks or putting your foot in a certain spot, knowing in your head that you did the right thing, but not having to execute it on somebody else.
Yeah.
And then other mind aspects you talked about. And this is actually transitioning perfect into the music part.
Yes.
Because that's one reason we like capoeira. Like a lot of people like it. And we know that's one thing that helps to build the spirit into things, the music. So
before you grab the beer and bow here, let me get that in your hand.
What the heck is that?
What is that? Can you?
Oh, he also has Mr. Bimbo on his shirt right there. So.
Oh yes. Can you explain like the spirit and why the music is so important?
Yeah. Well, because of the African culture, and music and dance permeates everything of African culture, and not just African culture, but other ancient cultures, Filipino cultures. There's Asian cultures as well, where there's a musical component, but particularly with the African culture. You dance and sing, and there's instruments done to prepare for war, to celebrate a marriage, to a harvest, a funeral, so it's only right that it would be connected. And I think that with the musical component, that it is organized vibration, because when you have, for layman's term, like organized sound, right? A sound that's unorganized is just noise, but once you organize, then it becomes a symphony. Then it becomes actual, music.
Have organized noise, then you have outcast.
Right. But also, there's a healing aspect to those vibrations, and the songs that we sing also have a message similar to the Africans that were being enslaved would sometimes communicate with the songs, and the slave drivers, and I say slave drivers or enforcers, not slave master, right? Because the Africans didn't feel like they were the slaves of someone. They didn't feel like someone else was their master, But to sing also helps you with getting through the situation. So the call and response format is African rooted as well, and it kind of creates a trance-like state. But I'm not saying trance as in possession, but trance as in like a mantra to help get you into that zone where you're not thinking about your movements, you're just feeling it, and then you just go. And you train your body to be able to do what the spirit wants it to do in that moment. You know, similar to Shaolin monks, how they train a lot with physical conditioning or just stillness and discipline, so that you mold your body. Because when we all come into this realm of existence, we're all like squishy and you know, and then we create a body of art, you know, with the training that we do. So capoeira is the same way. So the musical component also has a healing elements to it with the vibration. There is even like certain tribes that use the berimbau to heal people. But in this case, it helps to dictate the velocity of the movements, the pace of the game, the jogo, and the songs help either communicate what's going on, celebrate, or communicate what the person wants to see.
Who is the person?
The person I speak of is the person leading the roda, generally a mestre or a master. But the highest level right now, because it does take a high level person to lead the roda or the circle on the berimbau, because you have to know what you're doing as far as the rhythms you're playing and singing at the same time. It's not easy.
And singing.
That's definitely not easy.
Yeah, I remember when we first tried to learn, we were like, what?
The pinky?
Yeah.
The pinky, yes. The pinky.
Can you demonstrate real quick, and Mr. Crooms, if you don't mind helping us out here?
Yes, so.
We're paying Mr. Crooms with
Bam.
the assistant salary.
Yes, that is it.
So can you
explain the different parts of it.
Yes.
Each piece, and then while you're doing that, I'm going to adjust my mic here.
Oh, and for fun, you guys look for Mr. Crooms in the background of the lesson, the capoeira lesson. He's back there like 3 times.
Right. At the end of this video, see how many times, put in the comments how many times you've spotted Mr. Crooms, and then an award will be provided with the correct answer.
Award from him, no.
Cool. So this is the berimbau. It is a African instrument. In the continent of Africa, it has many different variations and even different materials for it. But this is what it evolved into while in Brazil. So you have the different pieces. This is the gourd or the cabaça, where the sound comes out and resonates. You have the dobrão, which is the coin that also is used for different sounds. You have the arame, which is a wire. The baqueta is the stick, and the caxixe, which has different seeds in it as well. So even though this berimbau is a single string instrument, there's over 10 different rhythms that I could play. Okay, so to keep it simple, I'll play like 3. Okay, of different velocities. So you have like a slow rhythm, which is called banguelinha. And generally when that game is played, the movements are very slow, typically close to the ground. And then you have this rhythm, which is called iuna, which is named after a bird. And there are 2 parts to the rhythm called macho and fêmea, which simulate the male and the female birds calling back to each other. So this is the rhythm iuna, which is also created by Mestre Bimba, who's on my shirt. Okay. So the male part is, and then the female part is. And the female part is a little bit louder than the male part. So.
Is there a reason for that?
No, I'm just joking. And then the last rhythm I'll play is called São Bento Grande. Okay? And this is the standard rhythm that you will hear in Capoeira Regional. Not only that, but then there's certain songs that you sing. Can I do a song?
Absolutely.
I wrote a song about it, like the head go. So, I want to do two parts. One song structure is called a quadra, and another song structure is called a corrido. So, whenever we are playing capoeira in Capoeira Regional, you will start with a quadra, and then go into a corrido. Okay, so I'll start with São Bento Grande, that rhythm. So then I start with the song. Rio né mandingueira, Rio né mandingueira, quando tá no bebedouro, sabida foi ligeira, mas a capoeira matou camará. Água de beber, água de beber, camará. Aruande, Aruande, camará. Viva seu bem, viva seu bem, camará. Foi criador, camará. A regional, camará. E volta do mundo, camará. And then from here you go into the corridos, which would now be like call and response. Oh, sim, sim, sim. Oh, now, now, now. Then you go. Oh, sim, sim, sim. Oh, now, now, now. Oh, sim, sim, sim. Oh, now, now, now.
Oh, sim, sim, sim. Oh, now, now, now.
Hey, we're going platinum, yo. Mixtape dropping 27-25.
25. That was incredible.
That was incredible.
Beautiful.
Yeah, I appreciate it.
Sure,
Haven't heard of Birnbaum in person in so long. So
Oh,
that
wow.
was, and then so appreciate that. And thank you for sharing too. That's definitely hope to spread this to other people so they can learn more about
It's
it.
my passion and my pleasure.
Yes. So last couple things here.
Yes.
If you were to put into a paragraph what your mission is to do, not just with Capoeira, but like your mission, your purpose here.
My mission, my purpose in life is to research and develop this martial art that is Capoeira and use it as a tool for education, personal growth, and the growth of my community and the world. And that's also through just one-on-one, the classes, group classes, and performances, opportunities to talk about it like this podcast, and also through film and TV and things of that sort, because that can reach a large audience. Because one, like I said before earlier, that how I envision a lot of the self-defense aspects, and not just fighting, but showing a martial art of the African diaspora that is very empowering, you know, not saying that anything is better than anything else, but this is also just as good, you know, and also to show the history, not just the pain and suffering, but the success and the tenacity of Africans and their descendants, and how this art form that was born out of oppression is now millions of practitioners across the globe, and is something that is very inclusive. It involves a community, the circle, people clapping, the instruments, and two people in the middle. All that together is capoeira. So it can bring a lot of people together, and it can empower people in ways that they never imagined. It can push people past their limits, and it can help people express themselves, all while giving respect to the ancestors that went through so much in order for us to do it in the way that we can right now.
Beautiful. So,
Message.
Three words.
Oh, real quick. Oh yeah, go ahead. 3 words.
What are 3 words that
Follow me on.
slide into
Deal?
DMs.
No. Oh, that's actually what I was going to ask. What I was going to ask is, what is something that you have coming up next that you would like to share, and also where can people find you?
A lot of projects in the works. I don't want to speak on too early until they get to a certain point where I feel like, yeah, this is definitely happening. But again, just showcasing the beauty and strength, power of capoeira through film. But if people are more curious about the art form and just want to learn more, I have a website, capoeiraatl.com, and they can find me on YouTube and Instagram, Facebook.
Put that on the screen here.
Yeah, Capoeira ATL.
Capoeira ATL. And the last question before we finish off here with our mantra is, if you were to give 3 words that describe you as a martial artist, and how that also connects with the human aspect of it, because like when I see you in those videos of you just doing all sorts of crazy things, and I'm like, yo, he's a human being. How's he able to do this? So like, what are 3 adjectives that you have?
Words to describe me. I think that put me on the spot here. Very patient and passionate. And that last one, that's not a P word. Let's see.
Pisces.
Yes, we're going to go with that. Pisces, patience. I'm passionate, yes. I think passion, like I think those things like really describe me, because it's about, with the Pisces, like all jokes aside, it's about balance. And a lot of things can be learned through hardship and difficulty as well, because sometimes people will try to avoid those challenges, be it physical, emotional, or just when they happen to you. And rather than be, woe is me, why is this happening to me, you do your best to accept it, let it go through it, and what did you learn from it as well. Because, as they say in Detroit, like, you boil water, and then you can put a potato and an egg in that water, and depending on what you're made of, that potato is going to be soft and that egg is going to end up being hard. So you choose.
Just learned some Detroit boiling water.
I'm not gonna lie, my brain went to something else when I was thinking about boiling water.
Oh, Lord.
Terrible. All right, so
Keeping it
thank
real.
you for being on here now. This is something that we like to end our podcast with. It's our mantra.
Okay.
So you want to lead it?
No, I'd like you to, but thank you. Like, seriously,
My pleasure.
the more
It's an
that
honor.
we learn from martial artists who really take their craft serious and not like limiting yourself to just capoeira.
But using that as the vehicle to drive you to all the places you need to go. Like,
Yes.
you were in Detroit, and then California, then now you're in Atlanta. And I'm interested to see where the vehicle will take you.
Yes, and I'm sure you're going to be able to reach that goal of making it more known, definitely in media out here. So,
Ashe, yes.
Ashe.
All right, go ahead, Kevin.
All right, ready?
Call and response.
Call and response.
Okay, I'll just repeat what you say. Cool.
Mind,
Mind,
body,
body,
spirit.
Spirit.
I use my mind to think.
I use my mind to think.
I use my body to move.
I use my body to move.
And I use my spirit to spread love.
And I use my spirit to spread love. Thank you all for joining us this session of Martial Art Mindset. Make sure you subscribe to check out the next and the rest. Peace.
Peace.
we out.